Hello Americans, this is a police report. You have Americans that will pretend not to believe me. Like the news, they make allegations against people and against the president online. They say, oh, the president uses it was no evidence. He kept repeating, trying to use as a premise, that and how fake news is a premise. Before the World Trade Center attack, intercities, Connecticut people involved with predicate acts were also involved interstates, and worse than internations as the ones intercities. Identity theft, frauds, instances, roles. The only context they know me in. They know they can't put anything in paper in relationship to that. So Connecticut Interbranch has been forging and switching names. The judicial branch does it distinctly from the executive branch and from the political branch. And you guys are preventing us from calmly saying it. You say, oh, come on, and start calling us names. We have to get to the real premises. I've been asking for something in writing since I was a kid. These are people who plan this. These are people involved with the leaderships of prisons. They raise them on Central Connecticut State University. People raising the state police. People involved with the Wethersfield police chief. And years ago, involved with predicate acts on my street. Identity thefts and frauds. Sequence shifts, falsified police reports, various natures of crimes with guns, bug spray, knife, threats, switching names, forging names, replacing what's actually recorded over the phones with fabricated audio and video transcripts to replace that. They even put me in a fake communications, fake quotations with a Janito Mendez or whatever his name is, but a different spelling of it for one of the falsified police reports, where they have multiple falsified police reports for the same narratives. Now they're leaving out the ones they brought up first with the different people. Well, in other words, everyone's forced to speak through all these different names. They name stack. Bob Chase made confessions to me about this. He didn't let me read the police report, but he said there was a Phil Cololo on it. He's also involved. That name Cololo was confessed and recorded over the Wethersfield police phone, who confirmed they're the ones involved with worse than just threats and identity thefts and frauds with police on off the Wethersfield town offices. They have roles with Afghanistan ties to the Wethersfield town offices, something they're ducking behind. They have some guy with a Taekwondo place and people associated with a Taekwondo place involved with like a Delafiera family with judges, a judge in their family and a probate court judge, according to the old guy. I called him years later after I graduated. I don't know him. He sought me out to make confessions when I was a kid. And demonstrations. And in other words, I didn't have classes with any of those Delafiera brothers. I never saw on the campus of my schools ever a Lance Cuddy and his brothers. I don't know. I never even saw. I don't even know what they look like, his brothers. But when I was in grammar school, a Park Street, Alina's Pizza, a tiki bar place on Park Street was brought up in confessions, and Lance Cuddy's name was brought up. And those people also had our roles with name switching and forging, identity thefts and frauds tricks. And they're also involved with making all kinds of confessions to people at once. How they keep people not saying anything because they use people's sense and sensibilities. One Maggie pretended she was another Maggie to get me and a friend of ours to go to that bar and to a little wedding reception they had in Berlin, near one of the other spots involved too, a whole bunch of ways. A whole bunch of police forms and courts, judges and prosecutors involved with predicate acts on and off the campuses. They speak fake things into records. Now, since founding, we have people saying, oh, that's crazy, out of fear, and then speaking. Because, you guys are sick because you came through sick schools. If you want to debate that, it's fine. Follow mandated law. You can't follow the premises that are being used by people. Fake news is a premise. You guys are preventing mandated law. Your Facebook pages were without recorded being having been employed to identity thefts and frauds. Roles with Wethersfield police making fake Facebook pages tied to me, and with people tied to them anyway. While they're recorded since I was a kid, threatening me and others not to tell the truth and coercing people to lie with them onto records. All kind of falsified police reports they never prevent writing. They prevented writing. See, now the news, CNN, has been making theories. They've been saying that the president makes theories. Every time they use words like theories, people say that others make conspiracy theories. We have doctors with badges that are fabricating. There was a Leahy family that pretended conversations with me since I was a kid behind my back. They attached my family to fake conversations with me and with them, too. Because these are ones involved personally with proven federal criminals. All kinds of, like, pension thefts are involved with people on Trinity College and on CCSU, involved with predicate acts with Hartford courts and the Brighton courts on campuses, and with the locations next to the campuses and child campuses. And it's known how it's unknown to most, but it's known how the police forms and how the schools, like, they train teachers. This teacher goes to this school, and how that's connected vertically and horizontally. Even the private schools have conjunctions to this method that uses them, where they bring the private school kids into the public schools because they're the same age group, and they're needing to hide the narratives, like a O'Brien family, right through administrations, rolls with justice racketeering. They painted themselves in the corners. The other countries did too. Now they're they're valuing that. In other words, because they have no difference, so they can only be different through, contrast, and it's unequal too. America fell to this with the rest of the modern nations, but last. Native Americans did great damage control. There are proofs that they had a more advanced education. It's way more probable. And it was taken from them. They were forced to retreats. Their fact-cheating nature was tactically denatured. That's what they were doing with Native Americans, putting them in sick homes. Like, thank God, Canada's saying sorry about that. We recently saw that on television somewhere. But it's amazing. I mean, in other words, slavery. That was entrenched here since before our founding parents. And then people don't bring that up. They go, George Washington owned slaves. Where did they read that, first of all? In other words, they're not dealing with premises honestly. And the books that have summary convictions and about what is true, they're riddled with delusions. You guys have psychology riddled with delusions, and as rules, crimes, predators. That's the only reason we haven't overcome it. You guys are preventing mandated law and pretending other. Wethersfield locations, in other words, the Wethersfield town offices is still involved since before the World Trade Center attack with the wire crimes with the Wethersfield police that are criminally foreign influenced. They have people like a Kerr family and an Eric Jensen pretending they know me and my family. They met my father one time, each of them. Now those are people also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with a number of federal criminals before they were caught for what they did on television. They were involved with identity thefts and frauds with them and their family members. They were involved with predicate acts against my neighbor. And then they forced him to collusion with it. In other words, they make fake sides. Of course, they make instances where they can make fake sides where commonly they're sequence shifting together. They're lying about where one of the people was before that, and where all of them were before that. And people don't care because they're given means to, they're criminally foreign influence. They're tricked, hurt, persuaded, forced, and worse, kept self-valued roles, too, after then needing to hide, which actually recorded sequence true, finite, active, progressive, and identity, where identity has a semi-nature relationship to what works or not, what is simultaneous. Inventions can either be further positive or not in relationship to that. It's not debatable, only the extent of it is. See, but we have things being debated with physical delusions with our experts. So we have to have people follow mandated law and not pretend not to understand. So you guys make allegations against the people using simple sentences. Then you bring more names into it. You bring more subjects into it. while you're already trying to separate subjects that are inseparable. So you need to follow mandated law. CNN, Fox News. You guys are pretending about behavior online. Oh, but we're just counting this behavior because this behavior is hurtful, or in this person. They're leaving out sequence shifts. They're also they have these names I mentioned. They have a Joe Aiello tied to them. He's also with a former Mayor Gold, online evidence racketeering with them. They're speaking things because they want to bring us before courts that are personally criminally involved with these crackpots and their family members and the ones that live next to the judges involved, or that Judge Killian. But there are other ones criminally involved before him. Then we'll come to his physical delusions and his roles with the child sex offenders, his patients and criminals before they were caught. Further, with the people that answer the phones for the Wethersfield police, and tied to them, and to the mother of one on the child offender registry too. They're doing things. Who didn't even know what that was about? But they're doing things to lock people. They're using that course to lock people not to say things and to say things wrong. So there were a whole bunch of people that worked from the Britain Superior Court, a whole bunch of ways, personally, criminally involved with them. They have evidence reception racketeering natures and roles. They have to hide their actually recorded natures. That's why they don't respond in writing. They're trapped. They trap themselves. Central Connecticut State University recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with other nations using them remote. They used the Obama administration and the Trump administration remotely. Now, these are the same ones involved with predicate acts on off Trinity College, on off fire departments, on off where their family members live. Now, so there are judges and prosecutors that are involved with Covington Street houses, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated also intercities like with East Hartford. There are police forms and stuff like that involved with like all the buildings around where they build the airplanes, and they have a CRT place, community resources training or something like that, that works with New Britain Superior Court. That's in East Hartford. I don't know how they work into cities. CRT, no. They have critical race theory. See, they're putting theory while offensively, through voices and identities that already were involved with identity thefts and frauds. Typing faked audio and video transcripts, even if tricked, her persuaded, even if not realizing they're just switching everyone's names, because that's what they do. They put everyone and people next to them to fake words together. Then you go to courts, they don't let you have a quality of fact treatment nature. They're pretending they don't realize that they're cops and their people next to them and themselves are lying, and their delusions rot evil people. That's what spoke for what built Hartford, Connecticut. That's what spoke for what built Wethersfield, Connecticut, let alone Hartford, Connecticut, let alone New York City, let alone across the globe. Only a delusions wrought evil person would compare capitalism and delusions wrought and communism and socialism. And not realize how fake they are here and there. Already, we need social programs. You have a pathology of pathology of infrastructure of means to it that since before cars was designed to cause negative value nature progressions, acts and natures. We had north and south. There was slavery sickly distinctly, and sickly non-distinctly. So we could not discern how sickly simultaneously by a breaching method. That's what our founders wanted us to demonstrate. But instead, you guys play punk games. George Washington owned founders. You give some moron book, they know it's a lying book, and then all they hear, then you have to learn things through notes, and people saying things, they're not going to take note. George Washington thing. You have a real sick reception of people's identities. So you guys don't have the capacity to compare kids and into people's intellectual capacity. They have a test coming. The kids tied to the kids who have doctors in their families, people associated with the sociologists, with their kids. They're involved with identity thefts and frauds, sequence shifts, little punk games right before those tests, like fucking grammar school and all that. You guys are nuts. You think that science spoke for Hartford, Connecticut? It's unbelievable. Fair East Side High is a better school than what you have as claimed as your best schools. No, I'm just being. Notice they put a guy named Ramon, a Puerto Rican guy or whatever, as the guy who sells drugs in that movie. I forgot the name of that movie with Fair East Side High. In other words, they complicate things like that. They force people to be grouped, individually grouped together. And you think that little kids are the ones who are accessing chemical drugs and medicines and those other kinds? You know, adults are keeping this going. The justice system, you think that's justice? You think they cannot follow mandated law because it will reveal their souls as actually recorded. So follow mandated law, CNN. WFSB also attached me and my family and little kids to fake words and locations through time. They have, when I was in 4th grade, they had a Hilton Cataly come from WFSB to my school. Now, there are people that were involved with that back then, and now with their locations next to WFSB, who are involved with predicate acts. Also, that principal has a daughter who's involved with some of the people further involved with drugs and medicines crimes with the courts and with the campuses criminally involved, like Quinnipiac University. Now, know how they're pretending to be capable of polling people. And look at the stupid questions they ask over the phones and all the crank calls nowadays. That's not by accident. Well, when you have hundreds of nations that are naive, fake, sick people, sick identities of law, and you're pretending you're all suits and ties together, you're sick still too. You don't blame slavery on racism. You blame it on that predicate acts delivery system method. You want to blame it on racism, follow mandated law when someone tells you to. Get down. Or get down, get out. That's why.